markets react a lot more immediately. They will look very, very simply at what is the cost of producing this shale gas. And indeed, the cost of fracking, of producing the shale gas, is quite high. So we're looking currently at probably prices which would be equivalent to, let's say, $80 per barrel of crude oil, something equivalent. So if the price which gas can earn in the international market exceeds the cost of production, then it makes sense to bring it out and sell it and use it domestically, to be honest. To give you an example, right now, shale gas is produced in large quantities in the United States. The price for gas currently is standing at around $4 per million BTU. The production costs vary. And at about $3 per million BTU, I think it's probably the most cost-efficient, cost-effective producer of gas. So if the gas price in the United States goes well below that, then there will be a lot of companies that will basically have to go bankrupt. Now, in the European context, the prices which we have for gas, either in the UK market or in the European market, which would be another good export market for shale gas, you could have prices which are much higher than this, perhaps $10 per million BTU, $12 per million BTU, and so forth. So it makes good investment sense, market sense, to extract this gas and sell it to the market. We certainly need the gas domestically. Traditionally, the UK has been relying on its own gas and oil supplies from the North Sea. These are dwindling. For a number of years now, we are net importers of gas as well as oil. And these imports come now primarily from Norway, also from Holland, but also from Middle Eastern countries, particularly Qatar in the form of LNG, and ultimately from countries like Russia. So the question is, do we want to continue relying on imports, or do we want to be self-sufficient? In the United States, it has been a policy decision that self-sufficiency is important. In the UK, I think there is an understanding that we would like to be more self-sufficient. So it is a political decision as well as an economic decision. Right now, the conundrum we find ourselves in is, where will electricity come from? We don't favor coal, and this is the reason why coal eventually is going to be phased out and is going to be replaced by biomass, wood chips, which will have to be imported. The talk about is importing them from the United States, so there is going to be an environmental impact on using wood chips. The other alternatives are to use a lot more nuclear, and again, this is another major policy decision. And finally, it is to use a lot more renewables, but we do know that renewables are expensive. Whether we're looking at wind power, which is the main source of renewable in this country, we know that offshore wind, which is the most efficient from an engineering point of view, it is very expensive to put the infrastructure offshore and also maintain it afterwards. So we do have alternatives to using shale gas, but these alternatives are also very expensive. And ultimately, again, do we want to rely a lot more on nuclear, other fossil fuels, a lot more renewables, perhaps expensive renewables, or do we prefer to take out the shale gas from the ground?